everybody know. Okay, all, thank you so much for joining. Welcome to our Plains to Peaks Regional Network, July 21st, 2021. This is actually the last learning opportunity that I will be facilitating here in Colorado, but the work will continue, and that's the topic of our conversation today of what the work will look like going forward. Because Safe States Alliance will be coordinating the regional network, coordinating organizations. I don't know if they're still calling it RNCOs, but they'll be doing the RNCO work starting, I think, officially this fall. So we'll get into more of that in a minute, but I thought it would be helpful to do a round of introductions. I know most of us know each other, and many of us may know Shelley from our injury and violence prevention work over the years, but I thought it would just be nice to all say hi to each other, and also so just share your name and your role in your organization, and then just a little icebreaker, what your favorite family tradition you have with your with your loved ones. So I can get started. I'm Colleen Capsamalis Doyle. I'm at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. I serve as the Program Integration and Evaluation Unit Manager in the Violence and Injury Prevention Mental Health Promotion Branch. So that's a mouthful. It's so funny, I put this icebreaker in here and I didn't really give it much thought yet, but I think I would say one of my favorite family traditions is on Christmas Eve every year when we're with my side of the family. My dad has a tradition of reading the Polar Express to us, and he's been doing that since I was a little girl. So we've continued that tradition now that he has grandkids. So it's one of my favorites. I'll just let folks jump in when they would like. I won't call on names or anything like that. So.
Well, okay, I can go next. Oh,
go ahead, Sarah.
This is what happens when we jump in, right?
Sorry.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Brandspiegel. I am at the Colorado School of Public Health and work with our injury center. And our favorite family tradition is we ride this train in southern Colorado. It actually leaves from Chama, New Mexico every year. It's a full day on this old narrow gauge train through the mountains when the aspens are turning, and it's wonderful. We look forward to it every year. So, and it's coming up in a couple months. So it's our favorite tradition. All right, I think Shelley, you should go next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shelley Stevens Stidham with the Safe States Alliance. Been with Safe States now a year in this current role. Prior to that, I was at the Oklahoma Department of Health in the injury program for many, many years. Left Oklahoma to move to Dallas, Texas to be the director of the Injury Prevention Center of Greater Dallas at Parkland Hospital. And like I said, I've been with Safe States for a year now. And, you know, it's interesting that you ask about traditions, because I had this conversation with my husband just this weekend. We are polar opposites. He loves tradition, things like that. The word tradition literally just, you know, causes the hair on the back of my back to stand up. It's just, so I'm not much into tradition. That said, we have a cabin in northeastern Oklahoma that my husband and his family has been going to this place for years and years and years. We inherited this cabin about 8 years ago, and so it's our own, and it's a place where we go and we don't have to share the cabin with other members of his family. So it's something I've started really enjoying, and now I have a 2.5-month-old granddaughter that I cannot wait to bring her there at some point. So
that'll be fun. Congrats on the granddaughter. Who'd like to go next?
Okay, I can go. I'm Peg Oji Ginsburg. I'm the Injury Prevention Program Manager in Nebraska. You know, I'm having a hard time coming up with something significant, so I'll just tell something silly. I mean, I come from a large family. I'm one of 9. And you know, obviously this last year with COVID, lots of traditional stuff kind of got thrown out the window in terms of holidays and those kinds of things. And then it was also the first year without our mom here, so that was kind of made it just different. But one of the silly things I've done with my kids we did not grow up having Christmas stockings, but my husband's family had done that. So we have always had stockings, and every year Santa puts the little M&M character in the stockings. Unfortunately, the last year or two, I've had a hard time finding them, but when I pull out Christmas decorations, there's a space where there were many, many trains that had the M&M characters on them, and it's a big, long, so I don't know my kids if they think it's kind of silly or whatever, but yeah. Anyway,
That's nice.
that's
Thanks
what
for
I'll share.
sharing. Yeah, I like it.
I'll go ahead. Jeannie Beats, Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services Injury Prevention Program. And kind of, I don't know, probably last 5 years, more of a family tradition is always making sure that we plan a summer family trip. Myself, husband, and 2 kids. And we love camping. We love the outdoors. And so we've kind of made it into a tradition of trying to visit at least a national park or 2 on these trips. So that's kind of become our tradition, is visiting national parks.
Thanks.
I'm Dana Zolk. I'm the Section Director for Injury and Violence Prevention Programs at the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And when my husband and I got together, we became a blended family with daughters of the same age who didn't always like one another. So we have Sunday dinners. And when the older girls were teenagers, that meant lots of friends over on Sundays. But as they've become adults, we've continued that tradition, but are now trying to navigate it as our children start to move away and take my grandbabies 2 hours away. So we'll see what that looks like over the next several months.
Yeah, good luck. That sounds hard to be away, but at least in driving distance, so that's nice.
Well, hi everyone, Lisa Roth with the University of Iowa's Injury Prevention Research Center. I currently am the deputy director there at the center and do a lot of the day-to-day management, but also a lot of the outreach activities. So keeps me very busy. One of the traditions that we have in our family is there's a rival football team, an interstate rival football with 2 universities. We have representatives from the University of Iowa, we have representatives from Iowa State University, but we all try to make a point of being together on that day to watch that game. And there's always good, ribbing back and forth with each other, depending on who wins. So it's fun fall tradition.
Yeah, that's coming up too.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deanna Farrell. I'm an epidemiologist evaluator at the Utah Department of Health. And one thing that we do every year around the holidays, we all get together and make tamales, which I love buying tamales at markets and stuff, but there's nothing like your mother's homemade tamales and how you grew up with them. So we love doing that every year.
I love that tradition. I would like to start that tradition. I love tamales. To get a recipe from you sometime.
Well, I'm Maggie Ferguson. I'm the Brain Injury and Disability Program Manager at the Iowa Department of Public Health. So I'm not sure where this tradition came from, but at weddings, if you get married and you have an older sibling who has not been married yet, they have to dance in a wash bucket. I don't know where that came from, but definitely was comical and made wedding guests wonder what was wrong with us.
That's one I've never heard before. I like it. Who'd like to go next?
Hi, I'm Christine DeMont. I'm an epidemiologist with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And my family is scattered across the country. I'm the only one here in Colorado with my 2 teenage daughters. And so we started doing Google Meet in the time of Zoom or of COVID, sorry. It's also a time of Zoom, right? And so every Sunday evening we get together and we keep adding more family members. And my mom, she's got a little early dementia, she finally figured out she had a laptop and how to get on. And she was just so funny. She goes, "Oh my gosh, do I really look like this?" Like it's the first time looking at herself on the camera. And the computers do not do a good job, but it's just fun to have like cousins join in when they're, you know, around, and nephews. And yeah, it's a good way to feel connected yet, but we're all thousands of miles apart.
Yeah, that's nice.
I'm Sarah. I'm an epidemiology fellow at CDPHE as well, focusing in injury. And this is another football tradition, but like I live out here, my family lives back in the Southeast, and we always, and my sister's in college and the other one's where, you know, still back home, but we all try to pick one football game at Clemson to all be at, the 5 of us, every year. So that's been fun recently since I graduated many years ago, and get to see my sister doing it now. But yeah, that's a good one.
Fun. I hope you make it to a game this fall.
I hope so. Yeah, we didn't get to do it last year, obviously, with COVID.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. Oh, great. Was that, I think that was everybody. Did I miss anyone? Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your family traditions. It's always nice to learn a little bit about each other. So I think next, Shelly's gonna, you know, talk with us about the transition of the RNCO work from the different states to Safe States Alliance. So I think I shared out some communications about this previously, but if you don't already know, in this next round of the core state injury prevention program, it's called now, there's no RNCO component. So states could not apply to like facilitate the regional networks. There are 5 across the country, and instead of states leading those, our Safe States Alliance is going to help facilitate them for all 5 networks. So the networks will continue to exist. So we'll still be the Plains to Peaks regional network for our 10-state region, for regions 7 and 8. But I won't be facilitating anymore. It'll be Shelly and the Safe States team. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I don't, Shelly, we didn't talk about this, but if you have anything, any slides or anything like that, you're welcome to share your screen. But if not, don't worry about that.
I don't, and I think I'd prefer to just have, I like seeing people's faces, or at least your names. And so I think this is probably better as a discussion. And let me just say, first off, I am happy to answer any questions. If I don't know the answer to it, I will try and find it and get back to you. I'd like to have a really candid conversation, because I know that anytime there's change, there's apprehension and things like that. That said, I think your network has already gone through change, because you changed states that were managing the network during the 10-year period that CDC has been funding the regional networks. But this is not something that Safe States asked for. Let me just say that. I have to be careful about how candid I get, although I know you're recording this, Colleen, but this isn't something we asked for, but we're very happy to do. CDC came to us and asked if we would take over the coordination of all 5 networks. We said that we would. There is less money that is coming to Safe States for that coordination than what the 5 states got combined. So we're going to be doing, trying to do, maintain and even potentially grow each of the networks with less money than there has been in the past. That said, we do not want, our intent is not to come in and make wholesale changes. We very much want to tap into what has worked well in the past for each of the regions, and again, not make wholesale changes. We have there are obviously some challenges. Colleen lives in the network, knows the network, and knows a lot of the partners. I live in Dallas, Texas, and while I'm very familiar with the Southeastern and Southwestern network, which I have participated in as a member and a participant prior to joining Safe States, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on, what some of the issues are in the Southeast and Southwest. I don't, and Safe States does not want to lose the regional perspectives. And so I think one of the things that we're going to be doing is trying to maintain champions, is the word I'm using right now, in each of the regions to help as we move forward. What Safe States is going to be doing is the administrative stuff that Colleen has been doing in terms of scheduling the meetings, providing the meeting platform, working with each of you to schedule learning opportunities and webinars and things like that. Safe States will take over that administrative function, but again, going to be relying on contact with you all as to what you want, what your needs are, and things like that. You all may be familiar that with the annual survey that goes out from Safe States every year. So CDC has asked Safe States in the past to assist in the evaluation of the networks. We'll continue to do that as well. So I know that the Plains to Peaks network, as well as the network that I'm most familiar with, which is Southeastern and Southwestern, each have their own websites. And so if you want to maintain that website, and Colleen, that's probably a conversation you and I need to have. I don't know if Colorado's putting money into that and stuff like that, but we don't, if you all want to maintain your own website, that's fine. I know the Southeast and Southwest do. The other regions don't have websites. And so what we've talked about doing is creating micro pages on the Safe States website for where we can house materials, past meeting agendas, archived webinars, things like that on those micro sites. They won't look near as cute as what you've got right now with the Plains to Peaks website. So if you all want to continue to maintain that, what we'll do is provide a link to that on the Safe States website for the Plains to Peaks website. I know that my network has, for the past 10 years, has had regional meetings or an annual regional meeting where they provided funding for one person from each of the participating states to attend. We did that in person for 8 years. Last year, we did a virtual meeting. This year, we did another virtual meeting. So I know that there are virtual platforms out there that have been useful in trying to keep people connected and things like that. I don't want to come in and say, we're going to do an annual meeting every year, because one of the things I know that I heard from Colleen is that many states, and it's been a while since I've worked in a state health department, but some states get to travel once, and that may be the Safe States meeting, that may be another meeting. And so we don't want to put undue burden on the states. That's something that is on the table that we very much want to talk about, whether we post-COVID, we can come together in one place at the same time, whether it's at the Safe States meeting or somewhere or sometime in the region, or a virtual meeting or a hybrid of the two. Again, that's something we want to hear from you all, is to what you would like to prioritize. We have put into the budget some discretionary money for each of the 5 regions. And so again, these aren't decisions that Safe States will make in a vacuum as to how to spend that discretionary money. We want to hear from you all, and it may be that we maintain a website. It may be that we bring people together face to face. It may be that, it may be any number of things, but we want to hear from you all what you want, what would facilitate connectivity and collaboration and things like that. I can't remember, Colleen, you may have been one of the people that sent me. My understanding is that when CDC started funding the networks 10 years ago, every network had to have a charter. I've gotten some of the charters. I don't have everyone's. And I can't remember if I have Plains to Peaks or not.
You had requested it, but yeah. I don't have it.
That's
right
and that's
I was trying
to connect, with to see if that's somewhere in files in Kansas or not. But I can check on that. But that's one of the things that CDC hasn't put a whole lot of requirements on us. Sometimes that's good, and then sometimes when you don't have a lot of direction, you don't know if you're doing what CDC wants either. So, but we will. That's one of the things that we'll be doing is looking at the charters, reviewing it. Do we want to keep it in place? Or make changes to it and stuff. The other thing that CDC has said to us is that they want us to create a kind of an overarching national advisory team, advisory body, advisory committee. I don't know. I'm really hesitant to use those words because honestly, we've gotten pushback in some of my conversations with people from other networks. It's like, oh my gosh, you're not giving us any money. Now you want us to serve on this national advisory board. There are hundreds of advisory boards out there. Why can't you all just get together and combine advisory boards and, and things like that? So again, I don't know what we're going to call it, but there will be some type of group that meets probably twice a year. That also includes people from outside of at least the practice community. It will likely include people from SAVER, people from National Safety Council, maybe people from Safe Kids and other national organizations. So we're still in the planning phase for that. I know that your funding for the current iteration of the networks ends next week. Our grant funding doesn't start until October 1, so we want to make sure that the transition is seamless. I think I think all of the networks have had those that have meetings and things like that are having them now, and there will not likely be meetings during the 3-month transition period, but during that period, Safe States is going to be developing at least communication so that we can begin to communicate with the networks, and that the communication does not, the current communication that you have does not disappear. I'm going to stop there and see if people have questions. I can ramble forever, but.
You might have already said this, and you likely alluded to the fact that, so is CDC put any type of deliverable on this for you all? Like, what are they expecting with your kind of, I don't know. It's always been a little bit of a mystery to me. For years, what the actual deliverable, like how are they measuring, have these regional network structures been effective? I think they're great. I think they increase connection, the networking, all of that is a really positive, but I'm just curious because so often with CDC funding, there's, you have to produce something, do something, I don't know if I'm rambling. Sorry, I'm just curious.
A very good question, and I saw chuckles from both Colleen and Peg. About the only deliverable is review the charter and organize a national I mean, an overarching advisory body and things like that. As I said, in many ways, we can develop what we want, and that's a good thing. And then, but there's also negatives in terms of not having a lot of direction and things like that. This is not, they have not put this on paper, and I have not been part of the, I'm going to just be very candid. I have not been part of the discussions with CDC about that those have been with Sharon and Rich. And I think Sharon and Rich are trying to communicate to me as much as they know as well. But I think part of the, you all probably have figured this out. The networks vary widely among the 5 of you. The Southeastern and Southwestern had a network, which was the old Saracen Southeastern Regional Injury Control Network that just kind of folded. Saracen folded into the Southeastern and Southwestern, so they had been operating for years. The Northeast and the Caribbean had been operating for years as the Northeast Childhood Injury Prevention Network. So there's some history among some of the networks. Some of them are just, brand new and stuff. And so I think there is those that have been operating for longer periods of time probably had more built-in infrastructure. And what CDC didn't do is, I don't think, this is Shelley's opinion, this is not Safe State's opinion, take it for what it's worth, is say, here, they gave everybody the opportunity to design a network of their choosing, but there's not really any standardization. There may not need to be. I think the Plains to Peaks region may look very different from the Northeast, and some of the injury issues are different and things like that. And so I think the idea behind giving each of the regions the flexibility to design something was good, but it's also, it looks wildly different among membership. There is, I know some, the membership is basically state health departments, some it's state health departments in injury research centers, others it is everybody and their dog that's doing injury and violence prevention in your regions and stuff like that. So it is varied among, some regions have said we're going to develop a project or materials. And there's been varied success at doing that. And so there are some materials out there. It's and our network developed a dashboard on motor vehicle crash or motor vehicle laws in each of our states. Well, as Colleen mentioned, who's had to keep up your website, you've got that job plus all the other things you have to do. And so a lot of that stuff has to be updated. And what we developed in 2012 is outdated right now. Again, I think I've had an opportunity to visit with all of the RNCO leaders at this point. I've also trying to visit with different people within each of the regions to understand expectations. Lisa and I have visited. I think what we want to hear is, and again, here's the other thing. I am one person. As much as I'd love to live in Denver, Colorado, and have tried to convince my husband of that for the 42 years we've been married, it has not happened and not likely to happen. So it is going to be imperative that we have champions, whether it's Colleen or it's somebody else that I can go to say, I can schedule these meetings, but I need input from you on this and, and things like that. I don't know if that answers your question, Lisa.
I know. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say I think it's really helpful. And I think just as a quick follow-up, I'm sorry, Colleen, to interrupt your flow, but is the intention still to be supportive of unfunded and funded states?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is, and yes. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that was certainly part of what was communicated to me back in 2011 when the RNCOs or the RNL or whatever it was called at the time. In the communications that Sharon and Rich have had with CDC, that's still very important to them. And let me just say, I know some of you know whether or not you have funding and others are still waiting. And we're on hold too until the core SIP announcement comes out as well.
Thanks, I really appreciate the response.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Lisa, I know that we've had conversations about this over the years too, is like kind of really understanding what the outcome or the goal of the work is. And I would say with this last round of funding, it got complicated because the CDC also had the National Peer Learning Team component. And for a while, like for a couple years, the RNCO leadership over there was very focused on MPLTs, and RNCOs could kind of do whatever. And then their project officer changed, and then it like shifted. Although I would say around that same time, Safe State started to lead a lot of the discussions for the RNCO leaders. So I actually think Safe States already probably has a good pulse of what maybe the various RNCOs could be or look like. Those leader calls were really limited to those of us who led the RNCOs or MPLTs, and I think that's like one perspective of where these networks could grow. And so I like the idea of having champions, and I also would suggest, Shelley, like I honestly, like the group of people who are here today we have a much longer contact list. These are the people that participate regularly. And so if you're open to like having more, like a few champions from our region, I think that if people are interested at that time, that would be a good idea. And then, yeah, I think that maybe we can like co-create some like goals of where we want this work to continue. I know that when I started facilitating it, we had some like broad goals around like more states in our region being funded for core. So we don't totally know the outcome of that yet. But that was like kind of our pie in the sky, like longer term outcome. And then others around, just opportunities to create peer connection and collaboration, which I think we have definitely done, and that's very much on like the process evaluation side of things and a little bit harder to measure. But I know that when we were all working on the core grant this past spring, we had an email thread going and we were able to reach out to each other. And that if I came new into my role and this didn't exist, this network, like I wouldn't even know who to ask these questions to. So like, I think that's a definite benefit and something to continue. And then I think the other areas that we've talked about growing, and I'd have to like look back at our evaluation data around this, is like some, kind of growing in core competencies around injury and violence prevention. That I think a lot of us have come in with a lot of those skills already. So we were probably scoring high already. And so to see change in that probably didn't occur because we were already experts or proficient in a lot of these competency areas. But just as some examples of like how we were hoping to assess the progress of the RNCO. But maybe we can come up with some more of those once, this actually gets started with Safe States, since Safe States doesn't have like a ton of like exact deliverables from CDC. So if we want to.
Very similar to probably the way it was written in the past, but yeah. So I will say this, and those who know me probably already know this about me. I love collaboration. It's probably embedded in my DNA somewhere. Now, my idea of what collaboration looks like is, and I think I use the words collaboration and connectivity interchangeably. Sometimes I think collaboration and people think, oh, we've got to be doing joint projects or a collaborative project or something like that. My idea of collaboration is probably closer to what Colleen described in terms of your email chain when you were working on the Core S SIP grant and stuff like that, and knowing who to call and contact and things like that. And we did not, when I moved to Texas 13 and a half years ago, there wasn't a network of, of professionals, an organized network of professionals in Texas. And, that's one of the first things that I tried to do. And now we have an entire collaborative and everything. And it's just nice knowing who to go to if you have questions. And I'm all about, offering the continued learning, the webinars and things like that. I was on the Northeast and Caribbean call earlier this morning, and Tracy Meehan at Nationwide Children's in Ohio gave an excellent presentation on using social media in injury and violence prevention. And she's going to do something similar to that at the Safe States Conference. So if you haven't registered, we hope you do that too. But, I think there are lots of really good, a lot of good trainings and opportunity and learning opportunities and things like that out there that we can certainly continue to bring to everyone. But, I think just having knowing you can pick up the telephone and call Colleen or Peg or, Lisa and say, hey, help me on this is even more important than structured regional network activities.
I wasn't
Shelley, what you were
involved.
saying about the training, if I can just jump in, was making me think about, one thing with the regional networks, I think the networking piece is really super important to keep regional, but I feel like a lot of the core competency piece, there is still an opportunity. Tracy's presentation would be relevant to any region.
Absolutely.
And so I wonder if there's an opportunity to kind of open some things up to all the regions and then maybe have breakouts by region or something like that. So we're not kind of all trying to duplicate learning, but still have the opportunity to kind of bring it to the regional level, because every region is unique. And I think that network piece makes a lot of sense to keep, but I just wonder if there's kind of like a real opportunity here to be a little more efficient with some of the training pieces.
That's exactly what I was alluding to in my comment too in the chat.
Absolutely, Sarah. And Dana, I'm going to get to you. So hold that thought. Actually, when Colleen and I were talking, one of the things that she suggested, and we will do for the future Safe States conferences, whether they're virtual or in person, but it will not happen for the 2021 virtual conference, just because we had already started planning the conference before we learned of this transition. But we plan to, in the future, at least at the conference, offer a time period on the agenda of the Safe States, not an after hours get together when you're having to pick one of 5 different things you want to do when you really want to go have dinner with your friends. This will be part of the agenda in the future and will be a couple of hours, and it will be very similar to what you talked about, Sarah, where regions will have an opportunity that are there will have an opportunity to participate. We've also talked about the possibility of having, one big general RNCO meeting where nobody has to pay a registration fee like you would at the conference and stuff like that. So yes, we hear you and we love that idea, and absolutely. Before you forget, Dana.
I'm not going to forget. It has been impactful and something that's been on my mind for a good long time. When Kansas had the RNCO or RNL or whatever it was called, and Lori Haskett was leading the charge, I can not recall the number of times that she heard from those unfunded states how grateful they were to have opportunity to attend a national meeting. And have the funding come through that source. And not only was Lori providing that funding through that opportunity, but she was also taking those states by the hand and helping them to grow their programs and developing that relationship. And I still have some of those same relationships based on the work that Lori did, but without, the funding to be able to send them to conferences, I've not been able to progress their work as well as she was.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think, I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and look, but I think at one time your region had the most unfunded states, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we still might. I don't know. I'd have to look. It'll depend on what these next awards look like.
Yeah, I'm
So-
pretty sure that this last round of funding, 3 of the 10 states were funded for core, and I always am careful to say like non-core funded because obviously they receive other funding opportunities from CDC. I think that I don't know I can't remember what the West Coast states or that region is called either, but I'm pretty sure there are only 3.
Western Pacific.
Yes, I think that they have only 3 states as well. At least with this last round, we don't know the outcome. I don't know. We don't know the outcome yet for the next round of funding, but yeah, and I think that is helpful to hear, and something that we had explored and weren't able to because of the MPLT component. So basically CDC funded this last round for RNCO, but it was really 2 components within one, and we weren't able to support that funding for travel. I love that idea of using that discretionary funding to bring either people that are not core funded to other national conferences or meetings, or for us to have in-person meetings. We weren't able to do that in the last 5 years either. So I think there's a lot of value in that.
Any other questions?
I did want to comment quickly, Shelley, on the website, because you had brought that up. I actually really do think that Safe State should manage a microsite for us for a few reasons. One being that I don't even do a very good job updating our current site, but the other reason is that that domain name is actually like kind of unofficial in terms of our department communication standards, and I think Lindsay Myers pays for it. Like she just donated money to pay for it, and there's really no need to maintain it in that way. If we want to like repost like historical past learning opportunities, we can talk about a way to do that. I think all the videos are like posted on YouTube, so I could certainly like share the links with you. I'm not sure that it's needed. I mean, and we can also start fresh and kind of go from October forward. So just something to consider.
It seems like it would make sense to have it be somehow tied to the Safe States website, because I don't know about you guys, but I get it's like, oh, another website I need to log into. Oh, and those, yeah.
Let me ask you this, and I was on the website, and I did see the YouTube videos of past meetings and things like that. What I don't remember is, are there archived, like if you've done a webinar, like if HMA has done a webinar on shared risk and protective factors for you, are those on that website, or are those housed somewhere else? And I know that if Safe States help co-sponsor it, it's probably in our training center too, but.
Yeah, we do have that recording. I actually was having a little bit of trouble with the file, but I just noticed recently that it was working again. So I will post that one. So yeah, maybe, I mean, one way to approach it too, Shelley, is we can kind of pick and I don't know. I think if it's easier just to like post all the past ones, that's fine too. It'll just take a little bit of time to do it, but I mean, honestly, I probably could like put them all like in a document with the links to the YouTube, and then whoever at Safe States updates the websites, we could just have, past learning opportunities of the region if people wanted to access them.
Any suggestions for me? Anything that you want to make sure that stays intact, or is there something new you want to try too? I'm happy. And if I don't want to monopolize this entire call, but if there are, I will certainly be around. I'll put my address, my email in the chat too. But yeah, I'm just interested in hearing from any ideas you guys have.
As an epidemiologist evaluator, it has been, I know Christine has started to join the, maybe you were on them prior to me, but just having kind of like some data a little bit separate from the programmatic component, I think is really important or helpful. I don't know if that necessarily needs to be by region or that could be broader to the entire group, depending upon what interest is. But I think that component has been really helpful.
Okay.
I think something to think about, and just thinking about that comment, is that CSDE does have a injury epi group, and is there a way to collaborate, with other committees? Or I know that that's not necessarily regional, but I know Christine.
That's a great point. They do a lot of like data surveillance, so maybe evaluation is more of a place that could be housed here. A little bit more of like programmatic evaluation.
Yeah, and then I'm sure that that is a need beyond just our region too. So that's a good idea.
Julie, I think when you and I talked, you had considered this. Will you reach out to any of the unfunded states? I mean, Iowa's an unfunded state and will likely remain an unfunded state moving forward, but maybe reaching out to some of the people who aren't on this call, who are part of this region, might be worthwhile, just to see what are some of the supports that unfunded states, I mean, I can tell you what Iowa needs, you know what I mean, those, but maybe from a different perspective of another state.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned that, Lisa, is to make sure that whenever we decide what this coordinating team is going to be called and look like, that we include unfunded states, people, representatives from unfunded states. Absolutely.
And we had a few people that weren't able to join today that were unfunded in the last round of funding for CORE. So I did promise to share the recording, and it might be good to, Shelly. I know I sent you the like contact list of everybody that I usually invite to these, but like I said, there's like a more core group, probably around 20 that participate pretty regularly. So it might be worth like checking in with folks to see if they want to continue to stay involved and what that might look like.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. What is, do you like the size and the group you're that are participating right now? Would you be interested in having people, IVP professionals from different locations, disciplines join, or do you like your core group?
These have always been open to everybody, like larger than this small group. These are just the people that tend to regularly participate, which is great. We have tried recruitment of other kind of like outside state health departments and beyond, like with research or other, hospitals and stuff like that. I just think that, to Lisa's point earlier, people are probably like, what is the purpose of this? Like, what's the value of the group to the work that I do? And so I think that there'll just be a need, and maybe that'll happen with like the development of a charter and stuff like that. So, I think we're certainly open. I do really like Sarah's suggestion. If there are like opportunities that are like offered to like all of the networks, that probably will get pretty large. But if we could figure out spaces that we could come together within our region, that would be good too.
Absolutely.
I think I shared this with you previously, Shelly, too, but our learning opportunities in the larger group were every other month, and on the off months, we would just talk about the core grant typically. And so that started off with just core funded states in our region, but we opened it up to the other, mostly the state designated reps in the non-core funded states. And that was definitely, I think, helpful as we were working on the grant applications. But I think something maybe worth discussing is if we would want to just, to continue that sort of format that's really focused on core, not, and really, I think that came out of a need that CDC wasn't meeting. We would all individually meet with our project officers or CDC evaluators, but they don't really bring together the states other than the grantee meeting, which is every other year. Is that Is that correct in saying
Hmm.
yeah, Peg and Jeannie and
Yeah.
Deanna?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's no other time that we.
Yeah. So I'm not, I mean, that
Um,
might be like something to think about,
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and in calling, this may be something you can send me. I mean, do you, my sense is you probably already know when you have this meeting on your schedule, and therefore me coming in and saying, oh no, let's now meet every third Thursday of the month or something like that wouldn't be good. So maybe if you could just send me what has been the regular meeting time, and
I
you know,
think I think we should reassess that. It's been a
okay.
minute since we've asked. So we were meeting like on Tuesday mornings for like the core focused meeting, I'll call it. And that was a standing time. But for these off month ones, I was kind of rotating between Monday afternoons and Wednesday mornings, just because a few years ago, those are the times that people said worked best for them. But we don't have a standing time.
Okay.
We're Mountain and Central time zones, so that's something to consider. You don't want to make them too early or too late. And well, I guess are you in Texas still, Shelley?
I am.
So you're Central, but I know Safe State staff works across the country, so
Yeah.
that's nothing you haven't encountered before. But maybe we could ask the group if there's a preferred time within whatever times work for Safe States as well.
Okay, well, that might be something that is some of our first communication will be to the group, just trying to assess day, a standard day of the week or time frame and stuff like that. So look for that in the next 2-3 months.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I know that we only have about 5 minutes left. Are there any other like final thoughts or comments for Shelley?
I'm just really pleased that Shelley's the one that's leading this effort. Having come from a state, I think she, has a little more insight. I mean, that's not going to sound right. I think she has a lot of insight into what some of our needs are going to be. I mean, but the Safe State staff is all wonderful. So, but I'm really glad that Shelley's working with us on this.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing where the work grows, and excited that you're leading the charge, Shelley.
Well, thank you all for having me today. And like I said, any burning questions, even if they're not burning questions, feel free to email me. And Dana, I will probably reach out. I actually have Peg and I are going to be talking to Lori in the next 3 weeks, I think. And so I can also tap into her for 2011 to whatever information.
Yeah, please do. I just searched some files that I have access to and did not find a charter. And actually, I was just texting with Lori. All relevant stuff. So yeah, Lori will be happy to answer your questions, I'm sure. And if there's anything that you need from me, please reach out.
I'll do another look as well, Shelley, to see if it was like an early deliverable for us, but I couldn't find anything when I looked quickly.
Well, and Colleen, I want to say a huge thank you to you, because you have had to lead this group, not had to, wanted to, whatever, but do you know what I mean? It's a lot of coordination in addition to all of the other work that you do as part of your day job. So it's much appreciated, because I've really benefited from the networking and the learning opportunities. So it's appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I also wanted to thank all of you. This is our photo from 2018, the last time I think that we were at or not the last time, but one of our previous times together at a Safe States conference. So I have really appreciated the connections with all of you and the collaboration. And I know that even though we're not leading the RNCO, we'll still be around. And so if anything ever comes up for any of you, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to connect with others in our region. And it's been a really actually very fun part of my job, and an opportunity to share and learn and collaborate with each other. So thank you. Well, if there is nothing else, we'll wrap up our conversation today, and we will look forward to hearing more from Shelley and the Safe States team in the coming months. I did share the transition document with my reminder email. So if you have any questions about that, definitely reach out to Shelley. But in the meantime, we'll take a break and we'll come together probably in the fall sometime. So.
Yes, and I hope to see many of you, if not all of you, at the Safe States conference starting August 30th. So hope you guys have a great rest of the week.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shelley. Appreciate you
Thank you.
facilitating the conversation. Thanks all. Have a great
Bye.
day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.